What happens when you stop contacting a woman? Some say she'll chase you, others claim she'll simply move on. But here's the hard truth. Her reaction tells you everything you need to know about her interest in you. In a world where relationships are often a power struggle between attention and mystery, understanding how a woman responds to silence could completely shift the way you approach dating and relationships. Here's the thing. Most men are so afraid of losing her attention that they bombard her with calls, texts, and constant updates. They think, if I'm not in her inbox, I'm out of her mind. But the reality is quite the opposite. Women are wired to respond to emotional shifts. When you suddenly go silent, it creates a vacuum, and how she reacts to that void will reveal her level of interest, her emotional maturity, and even her long-term intentions with you. Now, before you jump to conclusions, let's get something straight. This isn't about manipulation. This is about understanding a dynamic that's often misunderstood. Pulling back communication can be one of the most honest ways to gauge whether her interest is genuine or conditional. Is she really into you, or is she just enjoying the validation? Some women will suddenly start chasing you, questioning their own feelings. Others might grow cold and distant, revealing they were never as invested as they seemed. But here's the kicker. Her reaction doesn't just expose her. It shows you what kind of man you've been in the relationship. Were you leading with confidence and self-worth, or were you clinging to her approval like a lifeline? This topic is controversial because it challenges what men are often told about relationships. Society teaches you to cater to her every need, to always make the first move, to never stop trying. But sometimes, the boldest move is stepping back. Because when you stop contacting her, you're not just testing her feelings, you're reclaiming your own power. In this video, we're going to break it all down. From her potential reactions to the psychology behind them, I'll teach you why your silence can be your strongest message, and how it can either make or break the connection. Buckle up, because this isn't just about her, it's about you stepping into your full potential as a man. Let's get started. One, why silence speaks louder than words. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have as a man in any relationship. Why? Because it forces her to reflect on your presence in her life. When you stop reaching out, you create a void, a space she can't ignore. That silence triggers curiosity, doubt, and sometimes even fear. It forces her to question how much she values you. Here's the controversial truth. Constant communication can dilute your value. If you're always available, always texting, and always calling, there's no mystery left. Women are naturally drawn to men who create a sense of intrigue. When you're silent, she can no longer take your attention for granted, and that can shift the dynamics of the relationship entirely. Think of it like this. When you're listening to music, the notes are important, but so are the pauses between them. Without those pauses, the song would feel overwhelming, even chaotic. In relationships, silence serves the same purpose. It gives her time to process her feelings about you. Now let's break this down with an example. Imagine you've been texting a woman every day for weeks. She responds, but her replies are getting shorter and less enthusiastic. One day you decide to pull back and stop initiating contact. At first, nothing happens. A day goes by, then two. But by day 3, she sends you a message. Hey, are you okay? Haven't heard from you in a bit. In that moment, her reaction speaks volumes. She's noticed your absence, which means she was paying attention to your presence. That single message reveals that your silence had an impact. Now, whether she genuinely misses you or is just checking to see if she still has your attention is a different story, but you've shifted the dynamic. Silence is uncomfortable for many men because it feels like giving up control. But in reality, it's the ultimate way to regain control of your time, energy, and emotional investment. By stepping back, you force her to make a choice. Does she value your presence enough to pursue you? The key is understanding that silence isn't about manipulation. It's about creating space for clarity, both for her and for you. Sometimes, the strongest statement you can make is saying absolutely nothing. 2. Her ego versus her true feelings. When you stop contacting a woman, one of the first battles she faces is between her ego and her true feelings. For many women, the sudden absence of attention feels like a challenge, a blow to their pride. It's not just about missing you, it's about questioning. Why isn't he reaching out? Did I lose him? Was I not enough? Here's where it gets tricky. If she's driven by her ego, her response might be more about regaining control than expressing genuine feelings. She might text you out of the blue, trying to re-establish her dominance in the situation. Her ego wants to know that she still has power over your attention. But if her response is rooted in true feelings, it's not about power, it's about connection. She'll reach out because she genuinely values you and misses what you brought into her life. The line between ego and emotions can be thin, but her actions will tell you everything. Pay attention to how she responds when you go silent. Does she get defensive? Does she try to make you feel guilty? Or does she calmly express that she's noticed the shift and wants to understand it? Her reaction will reveal whether she's prioritizing her pride or your relationship. Here's a scenario to help illustrate this. You've been seeing a woman for a while and things have been good, but lately she seems distracted or less engaged. You decide to step back and stop texting her first. After a few days, she sends you a message. Wow, I guess you're too busy for me now. This is her ego talking. She's framing it as if you're the one neglecting her, trying to guilt you into chasing her again. Contrast this with another response. Hey, I noticed we haven't been talking much lately. Is everything okay? This second message shows genuine concern and emotional awareness, indicating that her feelings, not her ego, are driving her response. Understanding the difference is crucial. If her ego is running the show, she's more interested in validation than building a meaningful connection. But if her feelings take precedence, it shows she values the relationship on a deeper level. When you stop contacting her, it's not just a test of her feelings, it's a mirror for her priorities. Will her ego speak louder, or will her true emotions shine through? Three, the power shift. Who's in control now? When you stop contacting a woman, a subtle yet profound power shift occurs in the dynamic between you. Suddenly, you're no longer chasing her, and this disrupts the balance she's been used to. For many men, the idea of taking a step back feels risky, even counterintuitive. But in reality, it's one of the most effective ways to regain control of your emotions and your position in the relationship. Here's why. When you're the one constantly initiating, the woman holds the power. She decides when or if to respond. And over time, this can create an unbalanced dynamic where she starts to take your attention for granted. But the moment you stop reaching out, you change the game. You're no longer the one waiting for her reply. Instead, she's left wondering why you've gone silent. This shift forces her to evaluate how much she values you. When the constant stream of attention stops, she has to sit with the silence, and that silence can be louder than any words. It's in this moment that her true feelings are revealed. If she genuinely cares, she'll notice your absence and take steps to bridge the gap. If not, she'll stay comfortable in her own world, indifferent to the change. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about balancing the scales. Relationships thrive when both people are equally invested, but constantly giving without receiving creates an unhealthy dynamic. By stepping back, you show her that your time and attention are valuable, and you won't waste them on someone who doesn't reciprocate. This power shift also benefits you. It gives you the chance to assess your own emotions and priorities. Have you been chasing her because you genuinely like her, or because you fear losing her? Taking a step back gives you clarity and reinforces your confidence. You're no longer trying to prove your worth to someone else. You're simply reclaiming your own. Every relationship has moments where power shifts back and forth, but when you stop contacting her, you're making a statement. You're saying, I respect myself enough to step back and see if this is worth my energy. And in doing so, you give her the opportunity to reflect, adjust, and, if she's truly interested, meet you halfway. 4. Does she miss you or just the attention? One of the most revealing moments in any relationship comes when you stop contacting her. It forces an important question. Does she actually miss you, or is it just the attention she's missing? This distinction is crucial, yet many men overlook it, confusing validation for genuine interest. Here's the truth. Women, just like men, enjoy attention. It feels good to have someone who consistently reaches out, asks about their day, and shows interest in their lives. But when you remove that attention, it's easier to see what she really values, your presence or the perks that come with it. When you're no longer in her inbox or on her phone, she has to ask herself, do I miss his energy, his presence, and what he brings into my life? Or do I just miss the comfort of being pursued? These are two very different things. If it's you she misses, she'll feel the absence on a deeper emotional level. But if it's just the attention, she might feel annoyed, confused, or even resentful that her regular source of validation has disappeared. This is where self-awareness comes in. Think back to how the relationship has been up until now. Has she truly engaged with you in a meaningful way, or has she been more passive, simply enjoying the benefits of your effort? Women who are emotionally invested will show it in their actions. They'll make time for you, check in on you, and reciprocate your energy. But those who are just enjoying the attention will often do the bare minimum, just enough to keep you around. It's not always easy to accept this reality, but stepping back and observing her reaction is a game changer. If she genuinely values you, her actions will show it. She'll notice your silence, reflect on it, and take steps to re-establish the connection. But if it's just the attention she misses, she might react impulsively, trying to pull you back without addressing the underlying dynamic. The takeaway is simple. Your time and energy are precious. When you stop contacting her, it's an opportunity to see whether she's truly invested in you, or if she's simply enjoying the benefits of being pursued. Either way, the clarity you gain is invaluable. 5. When chasing turns into a test of pride. When you stop contacting a woman, something fascinating happens. It's no longer about connection. It often becomes a test of pride. Whether or not she chases you has less to do with genuine feelings and more to do with a battle of wills. For some women, the idea of someone stepping away from them feels like rejection, and their natural response is to prove they still hold the upper hand. Think about how relationships often play out. When you're constantly pursuing her, she feels in control. She knows she has your attention, and there's little urgency to reciprocate because you've made it clear you're available. But when you stop chasing, you flip the script. Suddenly, the dynamic changes and she's faced with a choice. Does she reach out and risk appearing vulnerable, or does she stay silent to protect her pride? This is where things get complicated. Many women don't want to appear too eager, even if they miss you. Society often pressures them to play it cool, to avoid being seen as desperate. So even if she's feeling your absence, her pride might stop her from making the first move. On the flip side, some women might chase, but not because they genuinely want to reconnect. It's simply a way to regain their sense of control and prove they can still have you if they want. For men, this can feel confusing and even frustrating. You might wonder, is she reaching out because she truly cares, or because she hates the idea of losing? The reality is that pride often clouds authentic emotions for both men and women. It's not always about the deeper connection. Sometimes it's just about who blinks first. The key here is to remain grounded. When you stop chasing, you're not engaging in a battle. You're stepping back to observe. If she chases you and it's rooted in pride, it'll become clear over time. Her actions will feel shallow or inconsistent, driven more by the need to win than by genuine interest. But if she reaches out with vulnerability, it shows she values you more than her ego. Ultimately, walking away isn't about testing her, it's about respecting yourself. Whether she chases or not, you'll gain insight into her priorities and intentions, and that's far more valuable than any fleeting sense of victory. 6. The emotional roller coaster of being ignored. When you stop contacting a woman, it's not just silence, it's an emotional trigger. For many women, the sudden lack of communication creates an emotional roller coaster they may not even realize they're riding. One moment, they might feel indifferent, convincing themselves that your absence doesn't matter. The next, they're overanalyzing every interaction, wondering why you've pulled away. This emotional turbulence is natural because silence creates space for uncertainty. Human beings, by nature, dislike uncertainty, and this is especially true in relationships. When someone who used to communicate regularly suddenly stops, it forces introspection. She starts asking herself, what did I do wrong? Was he losing interest all along? Why am I even thinking about him this much? It's important to note that this roller coaster isn't always about you as a person. Sometimes it's about the discomfort of losing something that felt consistent. Your attention was a part of her routine, whether she admitted it or not, and now it's gone. That absence can bring a mix of emotions: confusion, frustration, curiosity, and even a little bit of longing. Here's the thing, though. Not every woman will admit to this emotional turmoil. Some will play it cool, acting as if they didn't even notice your silence. But deep down, the lack of contact leaves an impact. Even if she moves on quickly or distracts herself with other things, there's usually a moment of reflection, a split second where she wonders why you stepped back. This emotional response is a mirror of her investment in the relationship. If she truly values you, the roller coaster will bring her to a place of clarity where she realizes she wants to reconnect. But if her attachment was superficial, she might try to rationalize her emotions and brush them off as no big deal. For you, this is a chance to take a step back and observe. You're not ignoring her to cause pain or to play games. You're giving her the opportunity to reflect on her feelings. That reflection can be uncomfortable for her, but it's also necessary. Emotional clarity often comes from moments of discomfort, and your silence creates the space for that clarity to emerge. By stepping away, you allow her to sort through her emotions, and whether she chooses to come back or move on, you'll have the answer you were seeking. 7. The fine line between silence and ghosting. When you stop contacting a woman, there's a fine line between silence and ghosting. At first glance, they may seem similar, both involve withdrawing communication, but the intentions and impact are very different. The difference often lies in how you handle the situation and how she perceives it. Silence can be a healthy and natural response in any relationship. It's a moment of taking a step back, reevaluating, and creating space for clarity. It's a choice made out of self-respect, not out of malice or avoidance. By choosing silence, you're giving both yourself and her the chance to process emotions, gain perspective, and reassess the dynamic. It's a form of self-care, not a game. Ghosting, on the other hand, is the act of suddenly and without warning cutting off all communication, without explanation or any chance for resolution. It's a one-sided decision that leaves the other person feeling confused, hurt, and abandoned. It feels like being shut out without any opportunity to understand what happened or why it ended. Ghosting is passive. Silence is active. For you, understanding the difference is key. When you step back and stop contacting her, you're not vanishing into thin air. You're simply choosing not to engage. You're not leaving her hanging, wondering what went wrong. Silence gives her room to reflect, but ghosting leaves her with no closure. It's important to approach this with honesty and integrity. If you're stepping back to reassess the relationship or to give both of you space, you should be aware that communication is still essential. You're not disappearing, you're simply not initiating. If she reaches out, acknowledging her feelings and providing clarity about your own intentions is crucial. This avoids any potential confusion or negative emotions that might arise. Being clear in your intentions ensures that your silence doesn't cross into ghosting territory. It's about creating a healthy boundary, not closing the door without warning. Ghosting, while often seen as an act of avoidance, is a reflection of someone who doesn't value clear communication or closure. Silence, when handled thoughtfully, allows for growth, reflection, and mutual respect. So, when you stop contacting her, be mindful of the intention behind your actions. Your silence doesn't need to feel like abandonment. It can be a powerful way to reset and understand whether both of you are truly invested. 8. How absence exposes hidden desires. When you stop contacting a woman, something interesting happens. Her true desires come to the surface. Absence has a way of revealing what was always lurking beneath the surface, but often hidden behind the noise of constant communication. When you're no longer around, she's forced to confront what she really feels, what she really wants, and whether you fit into her vision for the future. This isn't always a comfortable process. For both you and her, absence can highlight feelings that were buried under the routine of daily interactions. She may realize that, without you around, certain parts of her life feel incomplete. She may also discover that her desire for you wasn't as strong as she thought, or perhaps that she was more attached to the idea of you than to the reality. Absence exposes the things people don't often say out loud, like their level of emotional investment, their fears about losing connection, or even their own insecurities. When the distraction of constant texting and communication fades, she has the space to reflect on what she truly wants from the relationship. Does she want someone who's always there to reassure her? Or does she long for a deeper connection? Does she miss the attention you gave her? Or does she miss you? For you, this absence is just as revealing. It gives you a chance to step back and look at the relationship from a distance. Are you truly invested in her? Or have you been pursuing her for the wrong reasons, maybe just for the validation or attention? When you stop contacting her, it gives both of you the opportunity to step out of the immediate emotional cycle and look at things objectively. Absence creates room for clarity. It exposes the truth that daily interactions can sometimes mask. Without constant contact, the relationship either strengthens because both people realize how much they want it, or it naturally fades, revealing that it was built on something less substantial. It's not just her desires that come to light, yours do too. By stepping away, you both get to see what's truly at stake, whether that's a genuine emotional connection or just a passing interest. Absence isn't about playing games, it's about giving space for truth to emerge. 9. The confidence of walking away. When you stop contacting a woman, you're making one of the most powerful statements you can make in a relationship. You are confident in your value and your ability to live without her. Many men mistakenly believe that chasing, constantly reaching out, and seeking validation are signs of affection or commitment. But here's the hard truth. If you're always the one doing the chasing, you're not showing strength or dedication. You're showing insecurity. Real confidence isn't about begging for attention or proving your worth through constant effort. It's about understanding that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. When you stop contacting her, you are essentially telling yourself, I don't need to chase to be worthy of love and respect. And that is confidence in its purest form. But let's be real for a moment. Many men are stuck in the cycle of constant pursuit, afraid that if they stop, they'll lose her. This is the mindset of a man who doesn't truly respect himself. If you're chasing someone who isn't matching your energy, you're not demonstrating love or care. You're showing desperation. It's time to wake up. If you stop chasing and she doesn't step up, then it's a clear sign she wasn't as invested as you thought. And that's okay. Confidence is about being able to walk away when you know you deserve better. It's about taking a step back and not fearing that absence will make her forget about you or move on. If you're in a situation where you feel like you're constantly fighting for attention, it's time to realize that your worth is not dependent on her validation. Here's the tough love. You're not doing yourself any favors by constantly chasing. It's time to stop pretending that your worth is tied to how much someone else values you. The moment you realize that your confidence doesn't come from her response, but from knowing you don't need to chase to be worth someone's time, is the moment you start building real self-respect. When you walk away and don't chase, you regain control over your life. You give yourself the space to see if she values you for who you are, not for the attention you provide. If she doesn't, that's not a loss. It's a win, because you're finally respecting your own time, energy, and emotions. So stop waiting around. Wake up. Show up for yourself first, and the right people will show up for you. 10. The silent test. Will she step up or let you go? When you stop contacting a woman, you're presenting her with a silent test. It's a moment of truth, not only for her, but for both of you. You're no longer handing her the responsibility of maintaining the connection. You're stepping back and allowing her the opportunity to either step up or let you go. In relationships, it's easy to get caught in the cycle of texting, calling, and constant communication. But when you stop, you reveal something far more significant. Who truly values the connection and who is merely comfortable with the convenience of it? For her, this moment forces a decision. Will she make an effort to reconnect because she values you and wants to build something real? Or will she let you fade away without a second thought? This test has nothing to do with manipulation or playing games. It's about seeing if both of you are truly aligned in your desires and commitment. If she steps up, you know that she values the connection enough to fight for it. She will take action, whether it's reaching out with an apology, a conversation about what happened, or simply showing more genuine interest. This is a positive sign. It means she's willing to invest emotionally and to put effort into the relationship. It shows that despite the absence, she recognizes what's at stake and wants to preserve what's valuable. But if she doesn't step up, if she lets you go without a word or a hint of effort, it's time to face the reality. You've now learned where you stand. She wasn't as invested as you were, and you've saved yourself time and energy. It's a hard truth, but a necessary one. The silent test, although difficult to endure, reveals the authenticity of her feelings and actions. Here's where men often get it wrong. They believe that if they just keep pursuing, they'll eventually prove their worth or win her over. But the reality is, if someone isn't motivated to invest in you when you step back, then they're not emotionally available or invested enough to create a meaningful relationship. This final test doesn't need to be dramatic. It's about observing her behavior, seeing if she cares enough to meet you halfway. If she doesn't, it's time to let go and move on, because a relationship is a two-way street, and if she's not willing to meet you there, then you deserve someone who is. Here's the truth. If a woman truly cares about you, she will never let silence be the end of the conversation. It's as simple as that. The reality is, if you have to constantly chase, beg for attention, or prove your worth, you're not in a real relationship. You're in a transactional dynamic where only one person is truly invested. This isn't love, it's convenience. So, men, stop chasing. Stop waiting for someone to show up for you when they can't even respect your space. If a woman is serious about you, she'll prove it by stepping up when you step back. If she doesn't, then let her go, because you deserve someone who values you just as much as you value yourself. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced this silent shift in a relationship? How did it change the dynamic for you? Leave a comment below, and let's talk about it. I'll be reaching out to connect with some of you directly because this isn't just about the video. It's about building a real conversation and supporting each other through these experiences. Let's keep it real. Your story matters, and together we can learn from each other. Thank you for watching, and as always, this is the masculine approach.